Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Oscar Talk, episode 23. Present all 23 categories. We are here to talk about the 2022 Oscar ceremony and all that went down with it. Plenty of stuff to talk about, and also not a whole ton to talk about. Interestingly. I'm joined by Anthony to break all this stuff down.
We're in the home stretch.
Yep,
Bring
this
this
is the
home.
big
Let's land
finale.
this, even though the Oscars didn't.
They did not, sadly. Before we get into the nitty-gritty details, what were your general overall thoughts on this year's ceremony?
Well, I will start with the positives. I think the show moved pretty well. I thought it was paced pretty nicely. Um, Looking at it in the totality of the event, the fact that it came in at 3 hours and 40 minutes definitely proved that there needs to be somewhere we need to tighten the show up, which we can get into kind of like what we would like to see going forward for the ceremony.
Yeah.
And I think the hosts did a pretty nice job. Some bits, didn't land as much as others, but as I'm sure we'll get into, comedy is subjective, and not everything's going to work for everybody. But I think overall they did a nice job. I think each of the comedians got a really funny moment that I'll remember, and I also think that they did a nice job of, for the most part, there was a couple jokes that were a little too hurtful in terms of if this is
As we
about
saw.
honor. What?
I said as we saw with certain individuals.
Certain, but just staying with the host, as much as I did not appreciate the movie, the last duel joke was a little
Too far.
It was a little
That
too far.
hurt my
I just
soul.
think because the mood of the evening should be that we're celebrating film and we're honoring these wonderful filmmakers. And so I think the as far as you can go in terms of making fun of the talent, I feel was Amy Schumer's great joke about how Aaron Sorkin was so brave to make Being the Ricardos a movie about the greatest female comedian and not have it be funny. Like that, I think that is just south of the line, I feel, in terms of poking fun at the talent that's there that you're honoring. And
because she didn't say the movie was bad. She was just like, oh, interesting.
Well, also I think it was a very funny joke, and I think it was it's the type of intellectual comedy that still lands. It's not, you don't have to have a comedic degree to get the joke. So that's the type of comedy I think we're looking for here. We've been saying it all season, but when Schumer said, they finally made a movie about the Serena's dad, that type of, again, they had a lot of great moments. That when they dressed up as the characters, that was fun. So there was a lot of energy to the show. And I also think a lot of the musical sequences were done well. We don't talk about Bruno being the exception, which again, we'll get into all this. I'm kind of jumping all over. But I mean, we can't separate the show from the moment, because that slap changed everything. It changed the mood. It changed, you just couldn't take yourself out of that. And for me, it's like what I'm reviewing is the first 2 hours and then the last hour, because there's no way for me to actually assess the last hour, because it was completely enveloped in this swirling storm of ugliness. And once again, the Oscars somehow, though this was unforced, in years past it's been a mistake on their own hands mostly. But again, we're talking about a ceremony that's supposed to be representing the whole of the industry, and somehow devolves into focusing on one person. And that, for me, again, no matter how it happened, it's just a factor at the Oscars that, again, I am not comfortable with. And I, for one, will remember this, as I'm sure everybody else will remember it, by this moment, by this slap.
Yeah. My general thoughts on this ceremony, I'd say this is probably the worst ceremony. I haven't thoroughly watching the Oscars only really for the past few years, probably since 2016. 2015. But either way, I would say this is the worst one I've seen. You cut 8 categories to save time to have the ceremony come in at 3 hours on the dot, and it's 3 hours and 45 minutes. It's longer than the past 2 or 3 years of ceremonies, and I don't even know what they filled up that time with other than bits and the stupid fan favorite and cheer moment. I mean, one of the best gags of the night was the cheer moment, and or the fan favorite moment, all the different things that won there. It was just hilarious. And I think I think the host did surprisingly well, especially I think Amy Schumer really surprised me. I thought she did really good. Wanda Sykes did really good. I didn't like. I don't think this is on Regina Hall because it's. I don't think. I think other people wrote the bit. I didn't like the whole patting down bit. I think that's a little too far. I think especially if you reverse the roles there, I think that's a little problematic.
I mean, I think back to like Tina Fey and Amy Poehler the last time they, well, not the last time. I'm thinking of the last time when they did their 3 years in a row for the 2015 Golden Globes. They did a joke about we're going to play a quick game of Who'd You Rather, and
Yeah,
again, I
that's.
can't
I think that's
imagine.
more innocent than physic. I'm sure Josh Brolin and Jason Momoa okayed it, but still physically okaying.
Well, I don't know about
Like,
if they okayed it, but I think
hopefully,
it was the physicalness because I do think that there's,
that's groping.
again, if it was well done, like I remember them doing it and they were making, when Tina and Amy were doing it, they were like Alejandro Inarritu or Richard Linklater, and they were saying like how
Yeah,
long they would have sex with, depend like mirroring their directing styles. Like
yeah,
Richard Linklater, 5 minutes once a day.
yeah,
Alejandro Inarritu, 2 hours, one take. It's like there's a way to do it. And I'm not always like, oh, if a man did it, then it would be a problem. They are women.
yeah.
We can't just like live in an alternate reality. I think again, I think the Regina Hall stuff, like when it was like, let me take the single men, like that was
That
fine.
was fine. That was
Yeah,
fine because that was. Those people. I think, especially since they were on a teleprompter, knew that was going to happen. You could see as
yeah,
they walked by that the names were on a teleprompter, and there was no physical, like invading of privacy there. I just that one bit I didn't love, but I think Regina Hall still did a good job. So
yeah.
I think
Especially with somebody who like doesn't like. I feel like Amy Schumer on the sites that we talked about, like Regina Hall
they're
didn't
stand-up
like.
comedians. Yeah,
Yeah, so I think for her, like she definitely made a presence, and I think a lot of her, they did saddle her with it. Like they saddled her with the last duel joke. They saddled her with the
I think
patting
Amy Schumer
the
had the last
people.
dual joke, didn't she?
No, because Amy Schumer,
Oh,
the
oh no,
that
you're
whole
right. You're
bit
right.
was right
Yeah,
before Chris Rock, so she was
yeah,
backstage getting out of that Spider-Man costume. So,
yeah,
but I don't blame
yeah,
Hall, and I think given her material, I think she executed it well. So if I'm judging Hall, I think she did a great job. If I'm judging Hall's writers, I think
yeah.
again just a little bit of the tweaking.
Yeah, yeah, but I still think overall the host did better than I expected.
Yeah,
I would
especially
say,
after years of not having hosts, they went
yeah,
right back in.
yeah. I would say I would also though. I mean, there were moments where I felt like they were gone for like forever, so it just makes me wonder if hosts are really truly needed. But either way, I think it's a little too much time spent on gags. The way they edited in the different categories that were before the ceremony was odd. It just felt wrong. It felt off. And apparently, they're not even posting the full speeches online for people to watch, which is just, I mean, that's the least you could do for these poor people. And I think obviously the whole Will Smith moment ruined the last hour. You could just feel the whole room, the whole mood in that whole room change. And I felt bad for people like a Jessica Chastain or a Jane Campion or the whole Coda cast on how they had to deal with the room in that mood after that versus I think what was a much better mood beforehand. But overall, the ceremony I mean, also, I mean, I like ceremonies where there's a little surprise, where there's one or two upsets, and there really wasn't this year. I mean, windshield wiper, I guess, but that really, I mean, wasn't huge. Very predictable. I mean, I think there were like upwards of 900 people on Gold Derby that went 22 for 23. 9 people went 23 for 23, and that only one person ever on Gold Derby ever before this year had gone 23 for 23 or 24 for 24 at the Oscars. So definitely a hugely predictable year. But yeah, a little disappointing for me. I was hoping for better, but I didn't really have high hopes going into the ceremony, considering all the BS they have pulled leading up to it. So disappointing, but I'm happy for a lot of the winners.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think a lot of the winners were, rightly. I mean, my whole perspective on this is like, listen, it's who these people wanted to honor, and I'm not going to begrudge them just because it's not who I would have honored. And still, I
no,
think as far as Coda goes, I do think that it's such an important win for indie cinema, for the deaf community. It was really great again to see after Chloe Zhao's Nomadland won director and picture, and then Emerald Fennell won screenplay. We saw the same thing happen this year, where we had a
yeah,
female screenwriter in Sean Heder win, and also her film Coda won Best Picture, then Campion won director. I think there will. I mean, Ariana DeBose broke records. Troy
yeah,
Kotsur broke records. Yoo Jun Yoon made us fall in love with her again. I just
My God,
it's
she was the highlight of the night for me. The way she signed him and then held his Oscar so he could sign. I mean, she needs to be in the ceremony every year. I adore her.
Yes. They brought back John Travolta like 3 years in a row back in the early
Yeah,
2010s. She needs to come back every year. But yeah, so I think all of the speeches were really lovely, and the winners were very, they understood. Like, this is the thing that I think the Oscars has, is that the people who are there, I think, genuinely understand the achievement that this is, and they do take it seriously. And I think you don't see that all the time at all the other award shows. So I think,
yeah,
again, respecting that, again, the Oscars don't necessarily mean something in terms of, oh, now the movie is different. Like, now Coda is still the same movie it was yesterday,
hmm,
but what that award can do not only is a great recognition for the film, and it shows that we're celebrating
gets
the
more
film,
eyes on it, I'm sure.
it gets more eyes on it. And now, again, as we talked about last week, maybe deaf talent isn't going to disappear like it did.
We
I
hope.
mean, it maybe will stick around. So I do think that these awards matter in that context and what the award leads to next. And so seeing like Ariana DeBose, a very impassioned speech, like that was great. Jane Campion. So as far as the speeches went, Jessica Chastain too, I had to
I
watch it
liked
this
a lot
morning.
of the speeches. Yeah, I liked
Yeah.
Jessica Chastain's. I think of the three, I mean, Troy Kotsur's was like heartbreaking and also just so
Yeah.
inspiring. I did love Ariana DeBose's speech too. The way she ended it off with "There's a place for us," I thought was really beautiful. Um,
Pitch Perfect.
yeah, I think everyone gave really good speeches.
Yeah.
I mean, Will Smith's. We'll break that down
We'll
into
talk
more,
about it.
but I
Also,
think outside of that, everyone else, yeah,
the song performances were great too. I mean, I'm a huge Billie Eilish fan, so I was very happy to see her. Also, very upset because she's the first Oscar winner of the 21st century, and she
I
makes me
know
feel
she's
old because
shown
she's
us all
10 years
up,
older than me.
showing us
um,
up.
but that was a beautiful performance, and I was very happy for her. The We Don't Talk About Bruno thing was interesting just because
I didn't.
I mean, the whole thing I thought like I was looking forward to is, the Encanto cast, save for like John Leguizamo and kind of Stephanie Beatriz, though not really. They're not named talents. So getting
No,
to have them take a moment in the spotlight and sing a song that we all love as it is, was great. But so when Megan Thee Stallion comes in, you're just like, what is happening here?
I don't
And
remember her being in Encanto.
well, so
What
I
was her?
cracked it halfway through. As soon as when I think Daddy Yankee and Becky G came on stage, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this was the opener. And then they got Beyonce and they pushed it. Because the way they were
Oh,
talking and be like,
they were
this is
supposed
the
to open with this,
Oscars.
right?
Well, that's what I just the way her rap was going and the way they were all like, this is the Oscars. Like it was like you're opening the show an hour and 40 minutes into it. So I think
Yeah.
it was just that Beyonce was like, you're putting me first or I'm not doing this.
Hers was also pre-recorded because she was there in person also, which
Yeah.
is interesting. Um,
So
she didn't want to perform it live, I guess. But I also just, I think, I think they should have stuck with that as the opener because I mean, if you have kids, I think a lot of the reason kids were wanting to watch the Oscars was probably to see that performed live, and it didn't happen until like 10 or
an
11
hour
p.m.
and
over
an
here.
hour and 40 minutes in.
There, a lot of them are early.
Um, and keep the song as is. Well, the other thing too is like we had two separate in concert performances. We had two
Yeah,
separate Bond moments with the
yeah.
montage
The
and the
montages
Sean
were
White,
useless
yeah, and then the No Time to Die. It was interesting. Like, why are we not doing the Bond montage with the No Time to Die
right after each other.
performance? Like,
Yeah.
if we're cutting this down, like that was a very like those type of things. It's like, why wasn't that cut down? And so like I feel like in totality, when it comes to like Will Packer and his producing partner and just like the Oscars overall for like the past decade, I think post The Dark Knight is really where we've been in this
The
trend since,
preferential ballot, yeah.
yeah, the preferential ballot phase. It just reminds the Oscars feel like they're Fergie with the national anthem and they're trying to find their own artistic spin. And it's like, no, it's
They're trying to
traditional for
appeal
a
to the wrong
reason.
people.
Yeah. Well, that too. They're trying to capture an audience that they will never capture, and in so doing, you're annoying the audience that will always be there.
Yeah. I mean, I just think I don't know like how many people tuned in just to see Army of the Dead win fan favorite or Zack. I
No.
mean, Zack Snyder won both of them. Good for him. He won
Surprise,
cheer
surprise.
moment
Have you
and
ever been on Twitter?
yeah, it
Twitter
makes sense.
willed the Snyder Cut into existence. How did we
They
not
did.
think that that was going to win?
Makes sense. Deserving. He deserves. So even though he wasn't there, I think his movies deserve a little spotlight. Although the cheer moment is like top moments in like history of cinema. So I found that getting number one was a little concerning. I mean, also the fact that Dreamgirls was the only like non like comic book action movie that just seemed out of place in there. I was like, how did that place number four? That was just an odd choice.
Yeah.
But any
Um,
thoughts on either of those, the cheer moment or the fan favorite?
please let them die. I mean,
Get
no
rid of it.
offense to Snyder fans. I listen. I think that I enjoyed both those movies. But yeah, that needs to go. It was. I mean, they were. You
Waste
could
of
tell
time.
they were embarrassed by it. They put it near the commercials, and
No one
it was
announced
just
it or anything. It was really
yeah.
just like Oscar fan favorite, and then they just like montaged
The
them.
tepid claps at the end. Yeah, it was not good. And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is it.
People were not watching that in the audience, I bet, because it was right before commercials.
Yeah. I will say because before we get into the
The
obvious,
big moment.
we're bearing the lead here. Um, are there any things that you hope, like, what would be like your preferred Oscar ceremony? Because while I was watching, there were a couple ideas that like started to. First off, I think Lady Gaga should host next year. Her interaction with
Do you
Liza
think she
Minnelli
would?
was like, I
I
think
feel like
she
that's a
would.
thankless job. I mean, I feel like, I mean, Tom Holland said he would host, I feel like maybe his team got to him and was like, no, I don't think you should do that.
I think. Well, the thing with her is that it can't get much worse than this year. So I think the
Yeah,
industry, if they built the show, because this is the thing. I think Lady Gaga really wants to be respected by the industry, and I think if next year she gets a good producing team, like I think Quentin Tarantino should produce the Oscars. We need a film lover to not somebody who's trying to make a show. We need a film lover to produce these Oscars. And I think if you had somebody like Lady Gaga, because we saw with House of Gucci, like she was able to bring in an audience that wasn't necessarily going to that type of movie. And so if you want ratings, I think she's probably a good bet. She understands the gravitas of the event and she actually is sincere about it. She's very respectful, as we saw with Liza Minnelli. So she
yeah, that
just,
was a great moment.
it was just a great moment. And again, like I think as far as saving Best Picture and saving the sanctity of that moment, I think she did as good of a job as anybody could. So I think
Yeah,
she could do it. And I also think like having a song and dance woman, like, you know, as we've seen countless hosts in the past be, I think her doing that would have been great. I mean,
yeah, like Hugh
she's had
Jackman.
two of the best performances in the past like Oscars history with the Sound of Music tribute and Shallow. So like
Yeah,
I feel like you could get something out of her that you'll bring people in, but she'll still respect the evening. I would book her now. Like that's how good I
I
felt.
think that would be a good idea. And I think both those years you mentioned that she performed, ratings went up. So I think she also brings an audience with her. And she did not even need to be nominated to end the night a winner, because I think she definitely ended the ceremony looking very, very professional and kind.
My only other ideas is I think that, and I don't know if I've said this before, I think the original song nominees should just all come together Super Bowl style and make one
Yeah.
big medley, have one time performance that you can't see anywhere else than the Oscars. Like imagine if you had Billie Eilish, Beyonce, Reba McEntire, and like the musical stylings of Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I guess Van Morrison if he was going to come,
He would
like
have come.
all
Yeah.
together. Like I felt like that could have been like incredible. And then you only have one performance. You don't have
Yeah.
five or
Or if
four.
even that, get them all like, I don't know, on one of those like rotating stages they used in Hamilton or something, and like have like 30 seconds to a minute of each like performed. We don't need to like spend so much time on like, we spend more time on the song category than we do on like director, on
Or
picture.
best picture.
It's
So
like,
I
this is a
just
movie show.
yeah, I just feel like that, like having a medley sort of thing would bring in people because it would be like a very cool musical experience. I think to save time because they, you know, we saw that they were like trying to cut around the eight categories, like the walking up. Honestly, because I was thinking back to one of the Emmys where they did best comedy, best actress in a comedy, and all the nominees went to the stage. Now they had to walk up to the stage, so it took longer. But I'm like,
Mhm.
if you plan it, and like, let's say the people know like a category before, two categories before, and you have all the nominees go on stage. Not only is it a great moment that all of the nominees get a chance to stand beside their peers and in front of the industry and get some recognition, but then whoever wins, take two steps and you're at the microphone. That's another fix that you can
Yeah.
do to like fix up time. And then also, if you want to bring in viewers, I don't understand what the big problem would be. Ask the big studios to premiere your new trailers during the
It's
event,
so
like Super
easy.
Bowl style. Or like,
We only had Lightyear. Who cares about that? No
yeah,
offense, but no one's tuning in for that.
but it wasn't even like a new trailer. Like most of that we had
No.
seen already. But like another thing too is like, what if you had like some big casting announcement? Like, what if they hadn't told you who Rachel Zegler was playing Snow White, or there was a new Marvel casting, and you said to find out who's playing like Professor X and Magneto and X-Men, tune in to see them present at the Oscars. Like, I feel like there are ways to bring in people in that way, in a more commercial way that understands that movies and like the culture of movies, some of it is commercial and not all artistic, but still honor the artistic works at the same time. You just have to thread the needle, and the way they were doing it, it just a lot of the times it fell a little flat. Like the In
Yeah.
Memoriam,
Oh God.
like I don't mind a joyful song, but it was the
They
fact that it
spend
was
more time on
joyful.
one person versus
Yeah,
others.
and it was distracting. Like it's fine to be joyful. Like you can sing a joyful song, but don't take away from the people.
Yeah.
And then there was one other just flew out of my head.
Well,
It was
on top of that, I'll just quickly say I think you want to make sure. I think with some of their choices this year, ABC was favoring themselves. I think when you look at the categories that
oh
were
god,
cut, I mean, the technical categories that were saved. You got costume design, which that's going to be a Disney movie that's going to win. They knew that. I think production design. There's two movies in there. I think that was a closer race. To Nightmare Alley and West Side Story, I think, had a shot. Those are Fox movies. And then they're cutting out their competition with Warner Brothers and Dune and a lot of the technicals. And I feel like that was part of their motivation there. I think.
yeah.
And I just don't want to make sure it's like ABC just promoting them, ABC and Disney just
Mhm.
promoting themselves in their upcoming movies. Hopefully, it's like when Netflix debuted the Irishman trailer or something like that.
Yeah, like stuff like that. The other thing that I want to say positive, I liked the cast reunions. I thought that was a
Yeah,
um, good idea.
and it saved time too because they were just presenting. They weren't like having whole moments about them.
Yeah, the Godfather being the only one that wasn't presenting, but it's the Godfather, so we'll give you a pass.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I'll let you slide. It was a 28-year anniversary for Pulp Fiction, but fine. If it brought Uma
okay.
Thurman to the stage, what does it matter?
Yeah,
Um, I will say there was a conversation going on just because I want to bring awareness to it because this is something that I'm not particularly savvy about in terms of the discourse, but I think the more people talk about it, the more that we will. There was a conversation about the inclusion of the Juno clip and making sure that Elliot Page gave his consent to that clip being shown because it represents, a
different.
past
Yeah,
version of, or again, I'm not savvy with the nomenclature. I think we're all learning, and
it's a different part of their life. Yeah,
yeah, and people like Elliot Page, being in the public life is, I think, helping a lot of people in terms of discussing these topics. But just as far as that clip in its existence is something that I think we should talk about, or at least explore. It's going to get buried in so many other things, as well as the animation is for kids line that got dropped in that I missed, that I
so
heard everybody
stupid.
going mad, even though Flea was a nominee. This
Well,
again,
medium. It's a medium. It's not a
all over the
genre.
place.
Yeah, I always hate when people treat animation like it is a genre, like just a kids genre. It's an entire medium that has so capable of so many different things. And yeah,
Also, do you think that the Kirsten Dunst Jesse Plemons bit was
oh, I
actually
hated
like he
that
was
bit.
uncomfortable, or was he just a good actor? I just interpreted it as that he was doing the
I
bit
don't know.
well.
Either way, I thought that was kind of a kind of rude to Kirsten Dunst.
I
I mean,
mean,
if
I
she
guess.
okayed it, I guess, but I feel like I don't know. You could have done better choices of seat fillers
I mean,
rather than a woman who's been overlooked for years and now she finally got her first Oscar nomination, and now you're gonna say, "Oh, she's a seat filler." It's like, oh my god, this is like rude.
my theory with that is that maybe it was supposed to be Will and Jada, and then she had to pivot.
Who's the seat
That
filler there? Yeah, maybe.
that's my like. It was supposed to be like Jada was the seat filler,
Oh
and
yeah, she
that
would. And you
like
should have gotten slapped
exactly.
for
So
that. Yeah.
that so is there
Elephant in
anything
the
else
room.
before we talk about
I
this
mean, we
catastrophe?
we can talk about other stuff afterwards, but we should probably address it right now. The whole slap heard around the world. I guess we can lay out the situation a little bit. Chris Rock is doing
If you don't know, where have
yeah,
you
in
been?
case everyone
Why
has seen it. Yeah,
why
it's
have
gotten
you
more
not been on
views
the
than the actual
internet?
ceremony.
And why did you come to us first? That's the question.
Yeah, just quickly, Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's wife, um, called her GI looking. I think he said looking forward to GI Jane 2. If you don't know, GI Jane is a movie with Demi Moore. She shaped her head for the role. And Jada Pinkett Smith has a condition called alopecia, which causes hair loss. Don't know if Chris Rock knew about that going into it. I know Jada Pinkett Smith apparently has been very open about that. I didn't know that she had that condition, but I'm not extremely in the know about all of celebrities' lives. So, also Chris Rock apparently did make a documentary about Black women's hair, so I do think he would be sensitive to the subject. But we don't know what he knew going into that moment. If he did know about that, I would say that's very much
We
out
know it
of
was
touch
ad-lib.
and
We know it was
insensitive.
improv.
Yeah,
So it
it wasn't
definitely
written.
wasn't checked and approved, which, comedians,
It's crowd
comedians are
work.
known
Yeah,
to
they do that.
improv and ad-lib. So
Yeah, I mean, people do that all the time at the Oscars, Golden Globes. If you're sitting there, especially in the front row seat, I think you kind of have to expect to it. Be played around, to be made fun of a little bit.
yeah.
But I mean, we saw Will Smith laughing at the joke at first. Jada Pinkett Smith rolled her eyes, and then a few seconds later, Will Smith walks up to the stage, and Chris Rock is laughing, looking like he doesn't see what's going to happen, about to happen. Will Smith smacks him, walks back, sits down. This was cut out audio-wise in the U.S., but you could see worldwide that Will Smith said, "Keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth" twice, and then pretty much ended after that. And Chris Rock did a good job putting himself together fastly and then presenting the documentary category, which I think poor Questlove is the true victim in all of this. I mean, his whole moment, and he gave such an emotional, powerful speech. I think everyone was just like still shell shocked. I think the audience, he was probably still shell shocked. People at home were shell shocked. It's like his moment was very much overshadowed, and I don't know. I feel bad for him, but what do you think about this whole situation?
Comedy is subjective. Violence is not. This is not an issue. Like, I don't understand why this became like this sort of like we take sides sort of scenario. There is no
It's the
side.
internet.
I know, but
Yeah.
regardless, you can find Chris Rock's joke offensive or tasteless or hurtful. And whether he knew or not, I am going to assume that he did not, because it
Would
just,
hope not.
I don't know, personally doesn't seem like he would do that
Yeah.
intentionally. And B, again, as we've noted, he has done an HBO, I believe, like documentary about like hair within the African American community, and that talks about these conditions. So he's aware of the condition. Whether he was aware of Jada Pinkett Smith's specific condition, we don't know. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he didn't, because it just, again, that doesn't seem like Chris Rock is smarter than that. So I don't think he would go for that joke. He's not an insult comic in that way, so there's that whole part of it. But he still said it. So again, if you find it hurtful, that's fine. But nobody should be on Team Will Smith in this scenario. I'm sorry. There's just
assault on live television.
It's assault on live television during this most professional of nights. And I know I was talking to somebody last night, and they were like, it's the Oscars and type of thing. It's like, I get it. It's a TV show, but this night is supposed to be the epitome of this industry and like representing what this industry means to the rest of the world. It's not supposed to be trendy TV. If this show trends, it's usually for the wrong reasons, and that's not why this show exists in the first place. And his actions were completely uncalled for. I can understand that you're upset, and I understand that you want to protect your wife's dignity, but Jada Pinkett Smith can do it on her own. That eye rolls.
You can do it
after, more than any slap.
Like during a commercial break. You can just walk over to him, or even just after the show, you can go over to him and talk about it.
Or during your speech.
Or during your speech, if you want to.
He had the benefit of almost inevitably getting on that stage, and the fact that he didn't wait for that moment. I mean, that would have been a rousing moment if he talked about, his family that supported him, and then talked about his wife who's, been there, and like then talked about this, we all fight our battles. Again, it was just like it's like watching Revenge of the Sith and hearing Anakin, Obi-Wan say, "I have the high ground," and then immediately sinking into quicksand. You're like, you had the high ground. Both of you had it, and then you somehow lost it. He lost it. This has no reflection on his actions. Has no bearing on Jada Pinkett Smith, who again is a very strong woman who could have, I felt, supported herself. And that's the thing. What he did was not a representation of love. It was a
No,
representation of toxic
that's
masculinity.
toxic love. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is not what love does.
And
Not the correct love.
his linking it to the Williams, it's just like I just felt so bad for Serena and Venus. They can't
There's
get through
another
one of
moment
these
during the
award
season
shows.
where they looked awkward and like, what is going on? Right after
But
got the Jane
let's be
Campion.
clear here.
Yeah,
The Jane Campion thing at the Critics' Choice was a equal joke, I feel, to this. It was like it was a joke that talks about the person's self, either their medical condition or their race or their
yeah,
gender.
yeah.
They're comparable. I think the Chris Rock joke is
But she
worse, but
apologized
again,
profusely.
but
Yeah,
driven because she's not a
yeah,
comedian. She's not used to it. And
yeah.
again, she didn't mean it. But like, imagine if Venus or Serena went up and just like slapped Jane Campion. Like, we would be besides
Yeah.
ourselves. But Will Smith gets to do it and gets to walk back to his seat and gets to laugh when Amy Schumer makes a joke, a very needed joke at that point to bring the energy back up. Like, did I miss something?
Yeah.
He's laughing about it and then goes up and gives his speech. I mean, people were saying it. If a random sound designer rushed the stage and slapped Chris
Arrested
Rock, that person is out of the building. So,
immediately. They had 44 minutes after that slap to his speech.
and the
And apparently,
Oscars,
did you
I'm
see?
sorry, your defense of we couldn't find a way to meet
I know.
during the 44 minutes. The Dolby Theater is not the state of
It's huge.
Kansas. You could have found a way to meet in the lobby and discuss the plan.
Yeah. It's not like people are out there waiting for like the Academy members to go out and like present a category or give a speech
Yeah.
or something. Like you can disappear during any time.
I mean, during Kevin Costner's speech, which was so moving about like the artistic expression of movie making, I was half like so just enamored with what he was saying, and half of it was like, this is going on really long. This is the longest, like this is longer than most of the award winner speeches. Is he vamping because Will Smith is currently being interviewed by the LAPD? Like the whole night then was about the slap.
Was,
And every Questlove, Jessica Chastain,
I felt
Jane
so bad for
Campion,
them.
Coda, like everything that came
Billie
after.
Eilish.
Yeah, everything that came after was just it had a film to it. It had a filter to it, and
It was all
you
tainted.
couldn't shake it because it was the ugly.
Because you could feel it in the room. I think you could even like during their speeches, like even during Jessica Chastain's speeches, when she mentioned love, you could tell that she was kind of uncomfortable saying that now because Will Smith, after smacking someone in his speech, was going off about love. It's just, I mean, I feel like Jessica Chastain, like she's waited her like so much of her career for this moment, and I feel like it's very much tainted, sadly. And I mean, Coda's win, everyone's win. The whole room felt different. And imagine at that moment when you're like one of the peak moments of your life, and you have to now give a speech in a room where the whole audience is barely like they don't completely have your attention. They're not completely like excited.
They're completely lost. They're in a past moment. They're trying to reconcile what just happened. And again, distinguishing the line in comedy is very hard to do. But there's no defense of his actions at that point. No. I mean, it's
assault
just
is
like
not defendable unless it's self-defense.
Yes, which very clearly wasn't. He went up to the stage and, I think it took everybody a while to actually come to terms with what happened because we just couldn't believe that it was happening. I mean,
because it looked like a bit. Like I watched it live, and you can see my slowly breaking down of like, oh, okay, that was a bit, and then I was like, oh, it's not a bit, and then they cut off, like they muted him screaming. It's like, oh my God, this is real.
Well, the other thing too is, and this has not been talked about as much. I saw somebody mention this, and we don't know. There is a missing part of this because it cuts back to Chris Rock after the wonderful eye roll from Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah.
And then the next time we see either one of them, Will's walking to the stage.
Yeah.
And I've heard, again, this is a theory, and this is what we're talking about because we have to. It was very clear that Will Smith was laughing at the G.I. Jane joke. So either, and this has been the more popular theory, is that he was laughing, saw Jada's reaction, and then got upset. Or Chris Rock, after saying the joke, said, like he was like reacting, like feeling the room, as sometimes comics do when they try to save a moment and they go, really, that was a nice one. And I think it was that. It was the fact that he implied that there was a meaner joke he could have told that got Will upset, because then that was about him. And I think
True.
that's what made him
Yeah.
get up. That's, again, it's a theory. We don't know. The camera wasn't on them. I'm sure we'll find out more. But it just
Either
seemed like,
way, I don't really care. Either way, the end result is indefensible, in my opinion.
yes. And I don't think the speech, I think it
It
was,
was uncomfortable. It was
yeah.
hypocritical. He's like talking about love and how like God makes you do things, and about how the devil tests you in moments, which is wise words from Denzel, but still, um, we can always expect Denzel to be wise and professional. But that was also kind of implying that Chris Rock is like kind of like the devil testing him. And it's like, okay, um, and just like talking about love so much and all that after you just
Mhm.
smack someone on stage, it just also reeked of like trying to like PR like save himself in the moment.
Yeah, which again, it's like, again, maybe there's a conversation that needs to be done in terms of the separation of the professional lives of public figures and the personal lives. But personally, in this situation, first off, I don't think this is how you solve it, is by slapping a
No.
comedian. Because I think a lot of people now are like, what's going to happen to Trevor Noah and Kanye West next weekend? Like, I think
Yeah.
this happening and allowing him to give his speech, I think does set a possible dangerous precedent.
Especially if
And
there's no consequences to it.
exactly. Like the Academy is investigating into it. They're apparently holding a special meeting, and I wouldn't take away his Oscar because I
I
think
would
that
maybe
that
revoke
opens
his
the
membership.
whole thing. Yeah, I think at least for a
Don't take the
year.
Oscar. That's too much. That's a step too far. That's causing more drama where it's not needed. I would say I don't invite him for a little bit and probably revoke his membership.
I mean, again, I would just say, okay, the Oscar was done. It's not like they voted before they give it to him. Like,
No.
I mean, like right
He
before
earned that Oscar, yeah, but
he already
he
got it.
tainted it himself, yeah.
But I think going forward now, the Academy can make changes. I wouldn't go backwards, I would go forward. So, yeah, I think a year expelled, he doesn't get to come back and present Best Actress to
No.
whoever. Um,
To
you
On
know,
into Armis for no. Who knows? I doubt it's gonna be that.
yeah, I think
And Margot
that
Robbie for Babylon. That would be
I think
nice.
that's fair.
They have a
So,
relationship too.
yeah, oh God, imagine.
That would be awkward.
But again, back to the whole professional, personal lives things, I'm interested to hear because, like, for one, I don't think Will specifically gets to have that sort of reaction because he has gone on to the Red Table Talk, which is, I believe, his family, but it's definitely his
Yeah.
wife's show, where they've talked about each other's
They've been
relationship.
very open.
So
Yeah.
at that point, like, it's different for people who are specifically private. Like Adam Driver, for one,
He's very private. Yeah.
he's a very private
As
individual.
he's allowed to
So
be.
if he got upset that people were bringing his private affairs into the public, then that's one thing. Again, if he didn't hit anybody. But Will and Jada Pinkett Smith have allowed their private lives to be public. So to be upset with this joke, you just it just the whole thing felt very much like we were building up to this moment and that there was a lot of things on his mind and Chris Rock was unfortunately just the person who had to weather this storm. And also everybody's saying that this was like building up since he hosted the Oscars. he
They
he
might have
had
bad blood, but who knows?
it wasn't that bad. And Jada Pinkett Smith, when recorded by TMZ, asked about Chris Rock calling her out, she said, we have bigger fish to fry. That's sort of scenario. So, like, even then, I don't think that's what this was. I think this was, we saw Regina Hall make a joke about their relationship. I think a lot of people have. And I think it's unfortunate that it's clear
Been a
that
tough year for them, I think.
he's been very uncomfortable with that, but this was not the way to express it. And the worst part about this, for me at least, is that again, this is supposed to be a night that honors the entire industry, and now we're focusing on one person. And it was unlike the La La Land Moonlight thing or last year's Chadwick Boseman Anthony Hopkins kerfuffle. Like those were preventable actions, of course, but they still were the intent was you could understand like Steven Soderbergh, his intent was to try and end with a happy moment and it backfired spectacularly.
Yeah.
And the
This
La La
was
Land
the
Moonlight
year to
thing,
end with Best Actor.
yeah. And the La La Land, oh my God. And the La La Land
At least
Moonlight
it
thing,
wouldn't have tainted other people's speeches.
yeah. the La La Land Moonlight thing, of course, was one guy's stupid choice, but everybody came together in that moment. Thank God.
I equally blame Faye Dunaway for that too.
I blame Warren Beatty for not knowing for that Emma Stone
He
was not a
showed it to
producer.
her. He was confused, and he showed it to her, and she
I
read La La
understand.
Land, and she read La La
But
Land.
if I was presenting Best Picture, I would know every producer's name down pat because if there was a name I had to pronounce. And so I would have opened that card and seen Emma Stone's not the sole producer of La La Land. And
I
then
know,
I
but
would,
what do you
oh,
do then? Do you say, "Oh, this is weird. This says Emma Stone"? I think the
yes,
reaction
that's
was
what you
like,
do.
"I know,"
Anyway,
but I think he just wanted to show her like, what is this? But who knows?
I
That's
don't. I
beyond.
he was just throwing Bonnie under the bus. I think that's what that was. But anyway, we're not. If we relitigate every single Oscar thing,
That is a
Saturday
tame
Little Feather,
situation compared to
we'll be
this.
here forever. But I just think again, those mistakes, the intent was not malicious. They were
No,
honest mistakes or miscalculations. The intent here was to be malicious with a violent act, and I don't think Chris Rock's joke was meant to be malicious. He was just quipping, doing his Chris Rock thing. It came off a little wrong, just like the Jane Campion thing. But I'm
hmm
sure had Will expressed or Jada expressed the situation, he would have then just apologized for the insensitivity and for his lack of knowledge of alopecia. But it just there's no defense for those actions. And anybody who's defending this, I think you're setting a dangerous precedent where you're allowing violence to get away because again you find the joke offensive. Like I get it, we can all find the joke like offensive, but that doesn't mean that we allow violence to be sanctioned, especially at this event of all events on live
Yeah,
television. My goodness.
it's an egotistical, childish act. Um, so we do not support that. And yeah, happy for Will Smith to win his Oscar, but I really wish he just did not ruin his own moment and everyone else's moment of the night. But yeah, I think that's it on the Will Smith stuff. Don't want to spend too much time on the negative. Speaking of negative things, though, um, did you find it odd that no one ever mentioned cutting the categories in any of their speeches? I found that odd that no one would have called out the Academy to do that. I would have thought someone would have done that.
Yeah. Um it was a little odd. It was, but at the same time, I feel like it's like going to a birthday party and then calling out the host for like forgetting to send you your invitation on time. Like you're at the party, so to call out the host at the party, it kind of
Yeah,
didn't.
I
Like
mean
I
it's
understand why like people didn't want to do it. They were just honored by the Academy, and they don't want to piss off the Academy, especially because they were just given a nice gold statue. So
yeah, that's
um,
true. Might not want to hurt their standings.
yeah, that would
Yeah,
be my reaction. Though, yeah, it was. I mean, I was. I mean, we don't know. I mean, I'm would be shocked if nobody in those 8 categories didn't mention it, and the fact that obviously we didn't see that meant that they probably hid those parts.
yeah, and the fact that they're still not being shared is disrespectful. I think, in my opinion, I want to hear all of their full speeches and what they have to say, but Academy is choosing not to do that currently. So yeah, any other ceremony thoughts before we quickly talk about the winners, even though there's not a ton to talk about there?
Yeah, the set design was good. I like the set design.
Yeah, it was nice.
Again, I think that the hosts were pretty good. The show moved at a nice pace. I think there was too much fluff. They needed to cut it down. I think we need to get rid of the best picture like montages
It's
before. Like
useless.
just have a
That
nice
does not
two
help
minute
anyone
package.
understand the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, just have a nice 2 minute package before we present best picture. I don't need 30 seconds on every movie. Like we're seeing enough clips throughout the night that we don't need their own thing throughout the show derailing the pace
I
of the show.
I did appreciate this year though, because usually in past years they have someone go up and like talk about the movie
Oh
for
my
like a
god.
good minute beforehand and then present it. But this year just said the title and went into it. So I think that was trying to save time, but still I think they could cut that down even more.
Yeah.
One other final complaint about the ceremony as a whole is I don't think they show the audience enough. I was kind of upset with how little we got to see people. I think the only time I saw Kristen Stewart was when they showed people for Best Actress, and I was like, this is the only time I've seen her the entire night. That's interesting. Um, and when they made the Leonardo DiCaprio joke, I don't even know if he was there because they
I
never
don't think
cut
he
to him at
was.
all. I would have appreciated a better knowledge of the audience, but
I imagine that is probably the logistics of like the spacing of like the seat layout, and like maybe it was
Yeah,
hard to get
it was more
cameras.
casual this year. But even like during Ariana DeBosa's speech when she like talked to Rita Moreno, they didn't even cut to Rita Moreno,
No, they
which I was
did.
like, well, they did before she mentioned Rita Moreno early on in the speech, but when she directly talked to Rita Moreno, they did not cut to her, which I found
They cut to
disappointing.
Spielberg when she mentioned Spielberg, so
They
it was
did,
it
yeah,
was like half and half. It
yeah,
didn't bother me too much because I'm usually like stay on the people.
yeah, yeah.
Um, though I will say that the cutting to the when Oprah gave her Cecil B. DeMille Golden Globe speech, cutting to everybody in the room did make that moment feel special. So I will
Yeah.
grant you that, but maybe it was also like this the smaller group at the front would have made it like we would have been.
You can only have so many cameras,
They kept
so many
cutting back to
places.
Jessica Chastain for everything. There was a really great
I know.
tweet that said, "Thank you, Oscars, for keep cutting back to Jessica Chastain, so I know how
We
to
got to know her
feel."
thoughts on everything. Yeah.
I'm very
Yeah.
happy for her. I'm very happy for her.
Yeah, we can start with that because that was the only acting category that seemed a little unsure going into it. I know I ended up sticking with Chastain. I was very
Yeah.
tempted to switch to
What
Cruz,
was your
but
overall score?
including the shorts, I was 21 for 23.
All right, so we tied. Haha, we're a good.
Oh,
We're a good partnership.
we
I
are.
missed
What'd you miss?
I picked Penelope Cruz just because it felt that some of the passion, like because they hadn't gone up against each other yet, and I was
No,
believing.
yeah, it was. I believed all the reasoning behind it. I just thought
Yeah,
that Chastain was still stronger.
I think if I had thought about it more, the fact that it was so surely winning makeup should have helped me be like, it's probably a two-hander thing. And the other thing too is like, just how much did this industry love Jessica Chastain? And I think it was clear that they did, and that.
And I mean, the fact that it's a foreign movie, I know they're expanding to more international members. I do still think that is something that affects. Because I mean, 2 years ago, no one was even nominated for Parasite and that won Best Picture.
Yeah.
So I do think that's still a factor. And also, we going forward, I was talking about this on Twitter. We need to put less stock into those anonymous ballots going forward. I mean, she was leading those ballots greatly, and Don't Look Up was leading an original screenplay, and it's just you
I
don't need
didn't
to
let
let those.
I didn't let
No,
those
yeah,
battles sway me
but
any other
lots of
way.
people did. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
people need to stick to their convictions a lot.
You always got to think about who are the type of Academy voters that would feel inclined to share their opinions.
And then
And
also the people who choose to I'm sure they're publishing the ones that are the most different. Like if there was someone who
yeah.
just had the most predictable stuff, it's like, oh, okay, that's not going to be anything too crazy.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, in the end, it was that and Robin that screwed me out of a perfect
Oh
score.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but I was
Robin and cinematography for me. If I went with
okay.
Dune, but yeah, poor Ari
But
Wagner.
I could not be happier. I mean, I think -1. I think the other three acting winners were lovely, and I really I
Yeah,
hope that this Oscar win helps them in their future careers because all three of them gave such moving, powerful speeches. It was just like they're so deserving. Their work was incredible. I mean, Dune, congratulations, you deserved all
I
of that.
know.
Cruella
I
and
loved it.
even like it
Dune
was,
winning 6.
yeah.
That was the most wins out of anyone by a long shot. Coda with 3, and Eyes of Tammy Faye with 2. Eyes of Tammy Faye won more Oscars than The Power of the Dog did last
Eyes of
year.
Tammy Faye doubled the amount of wins from Netflix.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, Netflix only won
Insane.
1. That's poor Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, again, we keep saying it.
poor
I think that
Netflix.
Netflix really needs to stop having so many contenders. They think that they're going to profit off of
But
a scenario where, like, a bunch of them win a bunch of awards, but they're just diluting their opportunity to campaign. They need to pick one or two, but really they should pick
I
one
think
and
this year
go.
they really did pick one in my opinion. I think Don't Look Up got in there. I didn't see a ton of campaigning for Don't Look Up. I think they were very focused on Power of the Dog. I don't think anyone who's voting for don't I don't think Don't Look Up took away any votes from Power of the Dog. They're very different movies. I think the issue is the type of movies that they're doing. I mean, Roma, I mean maybe Irishman, but Marriage Story, um, what was this? Your Power of the Dog. They're more dramatically inclined movies. They're a little more divisive. And in the past few years, we've had more crowd pleasers, universally liked movies win.
True. I just think that like it's also in terms of what they are funding and because again, I don't think they need to change because I love what Netflix has been putting
Oh,
out.
I
Like
love what they're putting out. Yeah.
my top three of the year, two of them were Netflix movies: The Power of the Dog and The Lost Daughter. The third being Drive My Car. So like I really love what they're doing, but if they want that Oscar, they have to find their crowd pleasers. So I don't know. I think they're doing Maestro, the Bradley Cooper
Oh,
Bernstein
probably. Yeah.
movie.
I'm not
That
sure
could be
what they have
fun.
this upcoming year. Yeah. We're gonna
Yeah.
have to get ready for our 2023 predictions.
Oh my God. But yeah, I would just
Like it
again,
never ends.
if Netflix wants it, and I think
They'll
they
get it
do,
at some point.
they'll get it at some point. But I
Just
think
like
their
they got it
focus,
at the Emmys, they'll get it.
yeah, their focus should be a little bit have a little bit more fun because I think even when they eventually won Best Drama, they went for The Crown, which yeah, it's a drama, but it's fun because people love the British royalty and
Yeah.
all of the craziness of that family. Like it wasn't, House of Cards, which is a very depressing, serious drama.
Hmm.
So I think I Apple TV did a remarkable job with Coda this season, winning all three of its Oscar nominations, and I think that
Yeah.
they have
They
really
campaigned
positioned
it very well.
themselves as a wonderful streamer, and very deservingly so. They have some great shows and movies on there, and
Severance.
I'm yes, I've
Love
heard
that
great
show.
things.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's very, very, very good. But yeah, I think I do wonder how they would have performed if nominations were a few weeks later, because I think the Coda Buzz really did begin after nominations were announced. But I do think they campaigned crazy in those last 2 weeks. I saw Coda ads everywhere. I mean, they went to the White House. But even though,
When they
and
went to the
even
White House, I knew it was done.
yeah,
You don't go to the White House and then lose Best Picture.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm very happy for them though. It's definitely not my favorite in the category. But I think I like what it means for what it could do for Hollywood and deaf actors. I think it's a good start.
And also, Coda is not Crash. I don't want to like. I get
Oh
it.
no, it's not Green Book.
But I saw this narrative of like, go gay cowboys never win at the Oscars because
Which is
Brokeback
true.
lost to Crash. I don't think it's a fair comparison. I get it; they're similar movies, and they both are the Oscar bridesmaid. But
Yeah,
I
they're
think
not comparable. No.
in the end, as much as I love the movie, Dakota really moved people. I was talking to my screenwriting professor this morning, who, funnily enough, was the creator of Transformers. Um,
Oh wow.
yeah, and he talked about how Power of the Dog he didn't like, and he didn't like a lot of the licorice pizza, but he loved Don't Look Up and he loved Coda, and I think it just again, you can talk about the craft of these movies forever and
The
say that
emotion.
that's what's it's emotion exactly, and that's what those movies did. It even as somebody who hates Don't Look Up, I will give it some shred of respect that it ignited something in me, and I much prefer a movie that invites a passion than is apathetic. So,
Yeah.
like again, there was Coda was definitely deserving of the best
Okay.
picture, and again, it's not Crash. It's not Crash.
No.
This is the thing: the people who are voting for Coda, and this I think is the difference, and why again I don't see this whole gay cowboy thing part two. Coda winning is a representative of the passion for Coda. Crash winning was anti Brokeback. And that's my
Yeah.
feeling. I don't think people were anti Power of the Dog, and that's why they picked Coda. I think the people who love Coda love Coda. The Sam Elliots were not that large of a group, I feel.
No. I
Maybe
would
I'm
hope
wrong,
not.
but I don't feel
I
that
would
way.
hope not. Yeah. Hopefully that is changing. Um, yeah. In terms of other wins, pretty much everything went as expected. I guess anything stand out for you there? Even nothing really stands out for me right now. I'm happy for everyone who
Um,
won, even though it was
Congrats
not
to
good
Hans
for us.
Zimmer, second
Yeah,
win.
he couldn't make it, sadly, in person.
um, Very happy for Dune. Very interested to see if Dune Part Two will pull a Lord of
It's
the
gonna be
Rings. And
Denis versus Nolan that year.
yeah,
Gonna be
I look out,
fun.
Nolan. I
Yeah.
think. Well, see, because see, here's the question. So, Fellowship of the Ring won. I think it won six.
Mm.
Let's see.
I just
Fellowship
wonder, is he
won.
going to promote this as a trilogy or as a two-part thing? Because if he implies that it's a two-part thing, the second part will do well. If he implies it's a trilogy, who knows how the second part will do.
So Fellowship had 13 nominations and it won four. Dune
Mm.
had what?
9 or 10.
10? I think
I
10
think 10.
and won
I think 10.
6. Um, there's a there's a path. I do think that
There
Dune
is.
Part 2, again, if he sticks the landing, and I think we largely think he will. The thing with Denis Villeneuve, though, is I think he's like Nolan, funny enough. He needs to make sure that he puts that emotional undercurrent. Lord
Yeah.
of the Rings brought people to tears. The Return of the
Hmm.
King wrecked people,
Which
and
I
that's
don't
why it
know.
won. It wasn't just because it was, oh, we have to honor it now. Return of the King is the most emotionally moving blockbuster, maybe second to like Endgame and the last Harry Potter. So Dune Part 2 needs to bring that emotion, and I haven't read the book. I'm intending to. I don't know if it is, but
What
hopefully there's
concerns me is
romance.
I don't know the story, but what concerns me is I've heard it goes down in a very unconventional, darker path. So that would be concerning because I don't think it will end probably very crowd pleasingly. So
Yeah.
we'll
Do
see.
we have a Lord of the Rings Return of the King or in it chapter 2? That's what we have to distinguish here. And
Yeah.
that could determine whether he does pull off a Lord of the Rings and he goes at least director and picture. So it'll
We'll see
definitely
in
be
2 years. Yeah.
two
It's a little
years.
bit of a way.
I mean,
Um,
next year we're gonna have what? Martin Scorsese come back
got
and
Steven Spielberg
Steven
again,
Spielberg come back.
David
Does,
Fincher.
does Coppola and Lucas want to come back and have the
They
friends
should.
battle it out one last time?
Yeah, they should. I want to see Lucas do something again, but I think he has retired.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess ending it all out, is there a favorite moment of this entire season that you had? Something
The
you'll look
entire
back on
season.
fondly. I, for one, would say when Kristen Stewart was announced for Best Actress, I was very, very happy. That was a highlight
The
for me.
Penelope Cruz Kristen Stewart double whammy was definitely a very um, great moment. I, the Golden Globes tweeting
Oh
out
God.
like
Yeah.
laughter is the world's best medicine. So congrats to Best Picture comedy or musical winner West Side Story. I mean that was a
Yeah.
keeper. Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of the winners last night, I think, again,
Yeah.
Chastain, Kotzer, DeBose, Eilish's performance, I mean, those are great moments. I was very happy with that. I mean, yeah, I think overall this award season,
Not
unfortunately,
not my favorite.
will be remembered by the slap. And I think this had a more questionable collection of contenders. I felt like
I liked
I,
last year's contenders a lot more than I liked
oh
this
yeah.
year's contenders. This was a
Like
weak lineup in my opinion. There were a few I liked in there, but not a ton that I felt strongly about.
like I can't remember, not since I've like been into the Oscars at an appropriate age, have I ever felt like a movie nominated for Best Picture was rotten in my mind, like on like the Rotten Tomato
Like Don't
scale.
Look Up,
Um, but three of them in this Best Picture lineup
Belfast.
were and King
Congrats to
Richard.
Kenneth Branagh. I'm happy for you, but
Yeah.
original
So,
the screenplay
oh yeah,
winners were
Branagh.
yeah.
Again, I didn't love the movie, but I love him, and I think he's a very kind, wonderful man, and I'm
Yeah, I'm happy for
very
him. He's
happy for
deserving to
him.
have an Oscar.
Oh, Thomas Anderson, you'll get there one day.
Yeah, I don't think Licorice Pizza is the right movie for him to win for anyway. He'll win eventually. But I just feel like the screenplay categories have the past year has been very interesting and nice winners, and I feel like this
Yeah.
year my fifth, I would rank both of the winners in both the categories this year fifth place out of all the nominees, which is
Coda would definitely be my fifth and adapted. I think Belfast would probably actually be my third, which again is
oh
shocking
really
because
above
I
King Richard and
King Richard
Don't
is
Look Up.
fourth and Don't Look Up is fifth. I mean, honestly, like I might even like put Don't Look Up at four, even though I hated that movie. But I think again, comedy is harder to do, and so like at least even though I didn't agree with the
It was
ideas,
trying to do more.
at least yes, it was more ambitious and it just failed more. But that's bad comedies. You'll find like comedies are much harder to do than dramas, and therefore I give them a little bit more credit. Yeah, King Richard was not for me.
I really liked it. I wish what happened tonight didn't happen, but I'll still look back on that movie fondly. I enjoyed it.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the question. Do you think going forward that I mean Chris Rock will be able to evade this because I think he handled
he's
himself
fine. Yeah.
fine. I'm interested to see if he will apologize. I don't think he necessarily has to, given what happened to him. I mean,
Yeah,
you're slapped on national television. I think you kind of get a free card for what happened. Though I
yeah.
still think that, if he
It
did,
wouldn't hurt him to apologize, but
wouldn't
he
hurt him
doesn't
to
have to.
apologize. Um, Especially because, again, I'm assuming he didn't know about the condition, so it
Hmm.
would be, just to set the record straight. Though again, we live in a world where people still think this is staged, and so if he
Yeah.
said that he didn't know, I'm not sure who would believe him. But point being, back to my point, do you think Smith carries this for the rest of his career?
Um, I think it'll be. I don't think it will like hurt him per se. I think in the next, like, I think he'll still be able to book plenty of movies to star in because he is a movie star. I do think it'll be a like a smudge on his career, but I don't think it'll be anything that like I don't think he's gonna be like canceled or like put in like celebrity blacklist prison for that.
I
I think it'll
mean,
just be like he made a mistake. Like, I mean, less
yeah,
intense than this. Like how sometimes when people think of Christian Bale, he had that one moment on the set where he like verbally assaulted someone, was very
mhm.
mad. Not nearly as bad as what Will Smith did here, physical assault, but I think that is still something that pops up sometimes. So I
I
think it'll
think the
probably be
fact
like that.
that he slapped the guy and then 45 minutes later he got a standing ovation when he won proves that he won't get blacklisted
No.
by
I
the
mean, there are plenty of celebrities like Mark Wahlberg who have done terrible things and they're still doing fine in Hollywood.
yeah,
So
we're in a different world. But it's just interesting because I feel like certain like I feel like Kanye still carries around the Beyonce Taylor Swift thing, and I feel like the
he
same thing is
does, yeah.
going to happen with Will Smith. Like I don't think
Probably,
he lives
yeah.
this down. I think this will become part of his legacy, which is
It will.
unfortunate because it was a very rash decision and probably not reflective of his true self. And he's definitely in a very sorrowful place. But at the same time, it was just I feel it's indefensible. And
It
anybody who's
is.
defending it again, just ask what you're defending. If Kanye West now next weekend goes up against Trevor Noah, like this,
Yeah.
we need to speak out
I
against
think
violence.
it very much depends on how he handles it going forward too. Like I don't think Kanye handled that very well afterwards. I think I mean, he made a whole song about her. Very disrespectful individual. If Will
And
Smith
Will
handles this
has
well, I
since
think he'll.
apologized to
Yeah.
Chris and had released a statement, though I do think it says wonders that his PR team was with him in between the commercial breaks.
Hmm.
So they were preparing that speech. They knew he was
He
going to
did
have
a
to
good
give it.
job. That was a pretty decent speech, even though it was uncomfortable. I think he saved it as much as he could, besides for not apologizing.
I think comparing himself to the Williams, keep them away from this. This has
Yeah,
nothing to do with
definitely.
it.
Don't
And the
associate
fact that
them.
he did not apologize to Chris Rock live on air, I do think people will remember that he did
Hmm.
not do that. He apologized to everybody else, but the one person he should have apologized to, he did not. And
Yeah.
in that moment, it was very, you could tell it was very sorrowful. And it was, I don't think he was speaking with a filter, the last moment where I hope they bring
No.
him back again. It's a horrible thing. And I hope he can grow from this. But at the same time, we cannot let this sort of situation skate by.
No, we cannot. But yeah, still happy for everyone else for the night. Don't want to let that shadow over everything. I do still think not a very good ceremony. Probably my least favorite that I've watched. Very predictable winners, but I'm happy for the winners. Overall, not my favorite Oscar season, but there were lots of good stuff to come out of it.
I was just happy to be back in the Dolby. It was great.
Yeah, I do. I did really like last year's ceremony until the ending, but
Mhm.
I do think the Dolby is the place they should be. So, and I also like
Let us
seeing
know
Anthony
who you
Hopkins
want.
finally get a standing ovation because he
Yes.
didn't get one last year.
Let us know who you want to have produce the show. I really think a Quentin Tarantino
I
produced
think
show.
maybe after he retires, he should do that. I think he needs to make his final movie first.
Mhm. Also, Ben unfortunately could not be with us tonight, but he was.
Yes.
I feel like we've shared a lot of his points, though he probably would have gotten more angry about them because it's
Hmm.
Ben.
Yeah. He'd
Um,
be upset. Don't Look Up didn't win anything, sadly.
yes. But yeah. Anyway, thank you all for joining us this season, and thank you, Jack, for allowing
It
me
was a
to
fun
join
season.
you.
Yeah. I mean, we still got plenty of stuff to come. I mean, Oscar season begins at the end of the summer. I will personally. I don't know if you want to join me having very early, probably within the next 2 weeks, just for fun, 2023 Oscar predictions. Just because it's nice to look back like a year in advance and see just how wrong or right you were.
I mean, it's definitely fun.
What
It's
do you think is going to win
definitely.
next year? I say the Fablemans.
Oh, It's very likely because it's probably going to be feel good, and I think if it's
You'll
marketed
have
around
goodwill from this
Spielberg,
year too.
yeah, I think it's possible. I think.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Like Seth Rogen worries me because I don't know. He's not like an Academy darling.
No, but I think like they handled him well in Steve Jobs. I think in the right role he can be handled well.
That's true. That's true. He was very good in that. So
Got
yeah,
Paul Dano in there too after Riddler.
yeah. We'll see. Or can the will the Batman be the new Dune? Will Warner Brothers just continue to have like
Who
a run
knows?
on
Yeah.
the techs? That'll be
I
interesting.
think that's going to be Avatar.
Yeah, Avatar, Black Panther.
I don't know
There's a
about
lot
Black
of
Panther.
lot of
I feel like
blockbuster
that might even be
contenders.
pushed, but yeah, we shall see. There's plenty to discuss.
I mean, they're both going underwater, man.
They are.
It's going to be
They
very
are.
cool.
As is Aquaman too, but that's the
That's
following season.
2023.
Yeah, that's the next year. So yeah,
All right. Thank you, everyone. Oh, where can they find you, Jack?
you can find me at Oscar Film FC on Twitter, and that's really it.
Are you going to turn into Emmy with Forecast
Yeah,
FC?
I am. If you want to join me when the Emmy season starts, I mean it's already open on Gold Derby. I believe they opened it at the end of last night. So I do I like the Emmys not as much as I like the Oscars, but I'm not going to change my name or anything. I'll still stay Oscar Film Forecast, I guess, just so people know it's me. But I will be talking about the Emmys plenty, rooting for Succession and Severance and all that
And
jazz.
Ted Lasso's not up this year. Or no, it is. Season 2 is up
It
this
is
year, right?
again. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Jason
Every year.
Sudeikis and Gene Smart are the new Julie Louis-Dreyfus. They're just going to win every
Yeah.
time they're up.
Yeah.
Um,
Stranger Things is going to be out in time. Yeah.
well, will they consider Volume 1 to be
I
its
don't know.
own
That'll be
thing?
tricky. That'll be
I'm
tricky. I'm not sure
interested
how they'll handle
because
that.
I was questioning that about Ozark, but now Part 2 is going to come out,
April. Yeah.
in April. So I mean, that's going to be Julia Garner and Laura Linney going up against Sarah Snook and
It's going to be a good lineup.
oh my God,
From Squid Game.
and Squid Game. Yeah, that's going to be a hell of a race.
Yeah, it's going to be a good race.
Yeah. So join us for that. And
Yeah, that'll be also fun to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm on Twitter and Letterboxd and Instagram at Anthony_Post, and here on YouTube at Spoilers Ahead with Anthony Post.
Just had 2 recent Oscar videos if you want to check those out.
Yes.
Get more Oscar coverage. So yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you all for watching. Comment your thoughts on this year's ceremony down below. Like the video, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we will see you around at some point. Who knows?
Bye, everyone.